Late last year, I was really trying to figure out what type of lens I should rent out for the Sony a7 III. I had a really big project that I needed a Sony camera for, and I really needed it to do excellent in low light capabilities. So in one part of the project, I shot it with the Panasonic GH5, and for the second part of the project, I felt like I really need a Sony camera. So I decided to go on lensproto.com and rent a Sony camera. The thing is, I had no type of information on Sony lenses to really purchase. My friends gave me some great recommendations on some Sony lenses to rent out, and you know, I saw it, it looked very good to me, really, but I just felt like there was just a better lens out there, a lens that's just an all-around perfect lens. I gave it one shot. I saw some footage on YouTube. I was very impressed with the focal length, the low light capabilities, and just the lens itself. So I decided to rent it out for my shoot, and honestly, I fell in love with it. And because of this lens alone, it caused me to purchase the a7 III with this lens alone. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you guys why I personally think that this is my all-time favorite setup for the Sony a7 III. First off, you're gonna probably hear me say a lot of great things about this setup. I am not getting paid by Sony to say this. Oop, I had to put my phone on silent. I honestly just feel like this is just my all-time favorite lens for the Sony. There's not that much videos talking about this lens altogether, so I feel like this really might be useful for people who are really thinking about buying this lens. So first off, I'm just impressed with the build quality. Like, the build quality of this lens is just so amazing to me. I'm not a really big fan of small lenses. I know this probably doesn't make sense to you guys. I've been shooting with Canon for about like 2-3 years, and you know, it's a heavy setup, but I've honestly gotten very used to that heavy setup. And being on a lighter setup, it kind of taught me that it can really be a little bit kind of, you know, this is only my opinion though. I could be, you know, using it, and I just feel like the weight kind of makes it more stable, if that makes sense. I know I'm probably doing a lousy job explaining it, but I feel like I honestly just like the weight on my cameras, just so it could be a lot more stable than having a lighter setup and it's just a little bit more shakier. I just feel like having more weight to this camera just gives it a really better feel to it. And honestly, I just feel like the build setup on this camera is just solid to me. It's just really, it's just a real nice setup. The lens may seem heavy to most people. Even with my friend who has like a smaller lens, he even said that this is a little heavy setup. He used a 28mm lens, so I can imagine why he said that this lens was a little bit heavier. But honestly, I just really like the build setup on this. It's pretty solid. That's just me. I just prefer a more chunkier kind of lens, but not really too heavy, but just the right amount. The Sigma is a little bit heavier, like compared to this lens. This is just the right size, you know? The stabilization on both the camera body and this lens. Honestly, this floats. This floats. When I put this on my Ronin for the first time, I was so impressed. I was beyond impressed. I fell in love with this the very moment I put this on my Ronin. And I was so impressed. I just didn't know how I felt about it. And it just made me feel a certain way that I should never feel about any camera, honestly, because I love this setup so much. And the fact when I put it on my Ronin, it was just so butter smooth. And the fact when I took it off my Ronin and decided to do some handheld shots with it, it was just pretty smooth. Like, this setup alone, it's just smooth as hell. Like, I would honestly tell you guys, if you guys are looking for the best stabilization setup for the Sony a7 III and a lens, this right here is your lens. I cannot stress that enough. This right here is perfect. And I myself, as a music video director, we all know that we want the best stabilized shots. I really believe that you guys are going to enjoy this, especially if you guys want the best stabilized shots. The focal length. The focal length on this, beautiful. I just love it. I honestly just love it. Like, I think every single thing about this lens, I just really love it. But honestly, guys, I just love the focal length on this lens. Me, myself, I like shooting pretty wide. And I also like getting some close-up shots too. And the fact that I could go 16 millimeters and give a wide field, honestly, is pretty cool. Especially the fact that the Sony a7 III, it doesn't really, you don't have to crop in if you want to use 4K anymore. So that just makes it even better. And even if you want to crop in and you want to get a zoom shot, let's say if you go to 35 millimeters and, okay, hold on. So let's say if you even want to go to 35 millimeters, you can honestly do APC crop mode. So it zooms in and it goes to a 43 zoom. I believe it goes to a 43 zoom. Don't fully quote me on that. But since the 16 should go to 24, I believe the 35 should go to 43. Don't quote me on that. But regardless, it still looks pretty good when you zoom in on 4K mode. Yes, it may take a little bit resolution, but I'm pretty sure if you're shooting on 4K, it will still look pretty good. I've zoomed in on this lens a bunch of times. Honestly, the versatility on this focal length is just really amazing. You can use 35 mode, zoom in, and you can get a nice clean shot. You can go to 16, get a wide shot and get a full body. You can get multiple great things out this focal length right here. If I have to be very honest, I believe 16 to 35 is honestly the best focal length ever to work with, because you could just be so versatile with it. It's crazy. And with this lens alone, I've been shooting, I think I've shot at least probably 10 or more music videos ever since I bought this setup. Just for this, you know, setup alone, probably 10 or more. And honestly, it's just so versatile. I don't have any need to switch over and buy another Sony lens or anything. I honestly got my price worth, and this is where I talk about the price. Yes, the price is kind of yes, $2,000 for this lens, but I must admit, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say, yeah, it's pretty worth it, you guys should definitely spend it. But I'm gonna honestly just say this: I got my money's worth because I use this lens all the time. I don't want any other lens. I'm not a photographer. I'm not really a photographer when it comes to this. I'm not a photographer when it comes to this camera. When it comes to taking my pictures, I like to use my 1DX. But when it comes to really just, you know, this camera alone, this is just strictly one of my music video cameras. So I just really love this. I just really love this right here. Is the price fair? I mean, when it comes to focal length, the auto stabilization, the quality, I guess I can honestly say it's fair. It's just, you know, $2,000 is still a lot of money, but it's to your own. It's all on you personally. I still honestly feel like I got my money's worth. This was so worth it. I really feel like I don't have to buy any other lens. This is just my all-time favorite lens. And now the last thing that you guys just desperately need to know: the low light capabilities. Now, I'm gonna say this. As a filmmaker, I honestly believe you do not need to shoot all the way in like pure low light. I honestly feel like a lot of filmmakers get it twisted when they just want low light, like throwing some light. We're filmmakers. We're not supposed to shoot everything in like pitch low light. We're not honestly supposed to, in my personal opinion. But if you guys want to do some run and gun with this, especially in low light, and if I have to give an honest review on what I think about this in low light, I can honestly say I 100% depend on this lens and this camera setup when it comes to low light. And I'm gonna say why. With this itself, it goes down to a 2.8. So that right there is already a good, it's already a good field. Like, that's already low enough. And if you give it the right profile settings, at times I like to use HLG3, at times I like to use S-Log3. I must admit, at the moment, I'm kind of switching over my profiles. So I'm gonna be honest when I say I'm a little bit, you know, iffy on the best profile to use, because I always switch it up. I always, you know, like just switch it up to try different things. That's just me personally. But if I have to say, for each time I use low light on this camera, if I'm ever in a scenario where I'm not really depending on too much light, or I'll probably have a little light in a back, just, you know, making sure my subject is lit up perfectly, the lights in the background, just doing this thing, yeah, I can honestly say this is pretty nice. I honestly believe that you guys can honestly kill it with this camera if you're depending strictly on a low light situation. Of course, I've had times where I shot low light without any lights and stuff, because I use my surroundings to make sure my subject is illuminated perfectly. And also, it's all on editing as well. You can honestly push your settings to the roof if you really feel like. You can honestly bump your ISO really high if needed. You can also put your shutter speed, you know, down if needed. Not all the way down, but you know, it's all, you know, this the 180 rule, so you want to double it. It's all up to you guys personally. But if I have to say, this lens is honestly amazing for low light. I personally love this lens. This is just honestly one of my favorite all-time setups for the Sony. I've shot a lot of my best music videos with this. I've honestly shot one of my best music videos with this setup alone. There was the 2.8 video. There was this one, it was a 2.8 video. That video made it on Stage Cheese, so that was pretty cool. People were impressed with it. And it's crazy, like I've literally had music videos where I never took off this lens. And yes, I own another Sony lens, which is the 28 f2. I honestly bought that lens just to really test out my horizons, but I end up just kind of giving it away because I just really feel like it wasn't really being useful to me at all. So I just gave it to one of my homeboys who needed it the most. I think his lens broke or something like that. So I just end up realizing that this right here is just my all-time favorite setup at this point. I honestly just feel like you guys should probably really, you know, think about getting this setup. Yes, it's a lot of money. Must admit, $2 grand on the lens doesn't sound too cool. There's other lenses on the market though. I really advise you guys to check those lenses out. But this is just for people who've always been interested in this lens itself, and this is just my honest review on it. If I were to be, if I'm gonna give an overall review, and I'm gonna tell you guys that if you guys want an overall review and just want to know, is this lens worth buying? Will this lens give me the best quality ever? Yes, yes, and yes. But you have to make sure this right here is really important. Your lighting, your exposure, you making sure everything is lit up properly. That's really 10 times more important than any setup. You can always make any camera look beyond dope. You can always do anything with any camera, any lens. You just gotta make sure your composition is on point. But this right here is just very useful to me, especially if I'm doing a lot of running guns. And I do a lot of running guns at times, and I just really love this setup. So this is just my personal opinion on it, guys. I have my music videos playing over, so every music video that you guys are seeing right now, that was used for this exact setup. So if you guys are interested in buying the lens, you guys could, I guess, click the link in my description. I believe I bought this off B&H or something. I think I bought off B&H, so you can check out B&H, or you could go to your local Best Buy, whichever. I hope this video helps. Pause. But I accidentally ended off the video, and I forgot to talk about one more important thing that, of course, you guys were dying to know. I really forgot this. I don't know how I forgot this, but the autofocus, man. Autofocus. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to fix that. The autofocus. 10 out of 10. 10 out of freaking 10. It's silent. It's reliable. Of course, you can always be on manual mode if there's certain things you need to, you know, like pause and take, because, you know, autofocus is not always perfect. But this right here, like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 if I'm like 10 out of 10 if I'm like in any scenario where I'm just like, I don't know, it's just 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Daniel is really good, but autofocus, solid, absolutely solid. It's just pretty reliable, especially if you're on a Ronin. Just pretty reliable. If you're just, you know, gliding and you're trying to get one thing and then you just let it sit, and it's just really good at tracking. It's really good at tracking. Like, this thing is really good. Autofocus, 9 out of 10. But if I really want to just give my, like, I don't know, probably 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Don't know, but all I gotta say is this is pretty good. Autofocus is pretty good. I really recommend you guys to get this. Like, no joke. All right, guys, I'm out.